Hello and welcome to another episode of Lucky the Story. We have a very super exciting guest today, and his Francis Jones, who's the chief of fire department, who keeps Shelton safe. And in this episode, we'll talk about his journey. We will talk about what does the day-to-day life looks like at the fire department, and most importantly, how he keeps Shelton safe. So welcome, friends. Chief, how are you?
Very good. Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate you
Yeah,
having
thank
me
you.
on your show.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking this time and trust in this Lucky These Stories. We truly, truly appreciate. First of all, you look great in the uniform.
Oh, thank
You
you.
know, it's very sharp. So let's start from the beginning. What is, who is Francis Jones?
Francis Jones is a family man first and foremost. I'm married for to a lovely wife, and I have a son who's 23 years old. So that's first and foremost. I'm a family man and a public servant. Dedicated my entire adult life to emergency services. I worked for 30 years as a career firefighter, paramedic with the town of East Hartford, and rose through the ranks from lieutenant to captain to eventually deputy chief before my retirement last year. My career path within the Shelton Fire Department, which is a volunteer fire service, was similar. I started at the age of 16 because we have a junior program from 16 to 18 years of age in the city of Shelton where young potential firefighters can learn emergency saving skills and be part of their community fire department. So I started there when I was 16, also joined the Echo Hose Volunteer Ambulance Corps at the same time. And that started my journey within the fire service. And I've been serving the city of Shelton for 38 plus years now.
38
And
plus. Wow.
the last 17 as the fire chief. So similar to my full-time employment was you start out as a firefighter and then you obtain training and seniority and you keep moving up to more responsible levels, which include driver operator of the apparatus, the fire equipment, and then you can take promotions to become a fire lieutenant, captain, assistant chief, etc.
Thank you for that initial introduction. But let's take back. So you grew up in Shelton?
I did. Born and
Okay.
raised in
Born and
Shelton.
raised in
Yeah.
Shelton.
Our
Okay.
family goes back to the early 1800s within Shelton.
Is that the Jones farm relates to you?
No, absolutely. We're maybe some distant cousins, but there's no direct relation.
No. Okay.
I've actually had conversations with the other Jones families in town, and there's no direct relation except a common last
Common
name.
last name.
Yes. So
Um, you know, and this in this episode, what I really want to understand is from a mindset of a 13-year-old who's sitting behind. He's my son, and the older one also, who's 15. Um, when I think about, or when somebody who is an immigrant who comes to this country, or some like 13 or 15-year-old, when we think about the fire department, only two things comes to mind. One is like, okay, it's a fire truck, or if you go a little back, it's like a horse's, like I'm talking long back. But obviously there is bigger work or long. There are so many other things that goes behind just not just the fire truck and supporting and whatnot. What I want to understand from you is what is what is a day-to-day life at a fire department? Like, it has to be more than just serving of, a problem that comes along with a phone call, but there has to be more than that. So let's just start taking a step back and understand what does the day-to-day looks like when you wake up in the morning. What is your day as a fire department?
I'll start. There's like three pillars within the fire department. You have fire suppression, which everyone kind of is familiar with. That's the emergency call, the 911 call, someone has emergency, a medical emergency, fire emergency, or some kind of accident, and
Okay.
resources are going to come, police, fire, EMS. That's the in the fire service. It's called the fire suppression unit,
Okay.
and that's the fire engines, the ladder trucks, etc.
Okay.
One of the other pillars, and probably the most important, is fire prevention. So if you could prevent a fire, or you could prevent an injury from occurring through education, that's the ultimate result, because once someone calls 911, there is an emergency. So one of the things that we try to do is do fire prevention. And the other pillar of it, of the fire service, is fire inspections and investigations. So take this building, for instance. That's why you have fire inspectors and fire marshals and code officials to ensure that when the buildings are built and then being maintained, that there's proper fire exits, fire alarms, doors work properly, materials that are used to build buildings make them more or less fire resistant. And that all comes during the inspection phase. And then the investigation phase is kind of after the suppression phase. So when an emergency does occur, say a house catches fire, the suppression forces put out the fire, reduce damage, hopefully save lives and reduce property damage. But then you have to find out the reason why it caught fire. Was it accidental? Was it mechanical? Was it a nefarious type event? And that's where the investigation part comes in. So all those pillars make up the day-to-day life of the fire service. And so I could talk a little about each of them, or I could talk mainly about the suppression part.
I would like to touch on each one of them if
Okay.
possible, but so let's start from when you say three different pillars, right?
Yeah.
Which one is there does the statistics shows which one is more busier than others, or is it like they're equally distributed along when it comes to the kind of a work that take place on a day-to-day basis?
So personally, how I got involved in the fire department was through fire prevention. So when I was young, you mentioned your son's 13 years old, but back in grammar school, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 years old, 7, 8 years old. Most communities, especially Shelton, we do fire prevention in everyday daycare and elementary school. So during the months of September and October, during Fire Prevention Month, we send some of our suppression personnel out with the fire trucks to go meet and greet the children and teach fire prevention, stop, drop, and roll, how to look to make sure that your home has a working smoke detector, have an escape plan for your house. So we do that in partnership with the fire prevention, the fire marshal's office. And that's their daily duties. So their daily duties is to ensure fire prevention is discussed at every household and every business to help reduce those amounts of incidents. So, like I said, my personal story is when I was a young 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, a lady named Dolores Collins, she was a fire prevention chief at the time for the Shelton Fire Department. Her and her division, along with the firefighters, came to Sunnyside School, which was my local elementary school, and they provided fire prevention. And that was my hook into the fire department.
What grade was it? I'm sorry.
I was probably in 3rd grade when I
Third
said,
grade.
that's
Wow.
what I want to do. I want to be a
You know,
firefighter based on those firefighters, and particularly, I always give a lot of credit to Dolores Collins, because she was that hook when she brought that fire prevention to our school, brought the fire trucks, and that was my hook into the fire service.
Wow. It's
So
amazing. We had 2 episodes before, we had a head of the food bank from Connecticut Food Share. She was here, Miranda Maro, and she said the same thing. She was, I think she mentioned she was in a sixth grade, and that's how she got into the community service food drive. And thereafter, she made her passion for it, and that's what she does all her, like right now. She is leading the Connecticut Food Share. So it's amazing how you start at a very early age. So it's commendable that you were able to follow that passion, because not everybody, when they start at a young age with some attraction to things and end up being in the profession that you have been. So that's very commendable.
yeah, it's definitely it's a family event. So the fire service, there's long nights, missed holidays.
Even today?
Even today, there's like the career fire service. You work various different schedules, like a 3 on, 3 off schedule, 24-hour shifts. There's different makeups. It's not your normal Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 position. There are administrative jobs that are 9 to 5, but at any given time, something can happen and you're springing into action. So you mentioned about how's the day-to-day life of a firefighter is like on the career fire side, you'd report to work. You'd take
Regardless of your title. Like like
yeah,
everybody comes to their.
everyone comes to work,
Okay.
regardless if you're a lieutenant or a captain. You come to work first thing in the morning, and you want to you'll take report from the off-going shift and what happened last night, any issues with the apparatus or equipment. Then you do your daily checks on the apparatus. If you're an apparatus operator, you'll start doing your DOT inspection on your apparatus. As an individual firefighter or fire officer, you're checking your personal protective equipment, making sure your ear packs work, making sure lights, everything else works. And then you live at the firehouse, so it's like your own house. So you have to do your daily chores. So depending on the day, there's different chores that has to be done. Mopping the floor, cleaning, cooking, mowing the lawn. At a lot of communities, you have to mow your own lawn at the fire station when you live there. Um, so those are the daily chores, and then there's training. So when the bell hits, you're well trained and prepared for whatever the day can bring you. So training is programmed into the daily routine of most municipal fire departments. On the volunteer side, training's done on like nights or weekends or on specific dates, because on the volunteer side, those members have it even more difficult because they're working a full-time job somewhere else. Maybe they're landscapers, maybe they're a physician, maybe they're an engineer, they're working somewhere else. And they're doing their firefighting duties and all their training in designated time frames.
So when we talk about the jobs, I'm assuming I heard you said about volunteer, but at the same time there is a full time, right?
There are full-time
So
firefighters, yes.
so how how does the full time job, like, so for an example, if I'm interested in a fire department, how, when you apply, there is an interview, and where do you start? Like, what is the first level to all the way to the chief? Can you walk through that process?
So, so if you're looking to become a full-time career firefighter, the the beginning steps start early on. You want to graduate high school. You want to um, keep yourself physically fit, because part of it, the application process is candidate physical agility testing. It's a standardized test that most of the municipalities use to.
What is that test called?
It's called CPAP test,
CPAP. Okay.
candidate physical agility test.
Okay.
So that's one of the components of the test. Most communities have a written test examination, and
Okay.
and it determines an eligibility list of people. So first you have to do an application. You have to have a want, a desire to do this profession, and then you'll seek out municipalities that are hiring. Some municipalities want some training ahead of time. They may want you to already have your EMT, or to have some volunteer experience, so they know that when you do get hired, you're you're a good fit for the department. So so yeah, it's like applying for any other job application, but there is a written test. There's the physical agility test. Then the next step is, if you make it through those tests, there's usually an oral interview with a panel of maybe 2 to 5 people that will ask you questions. And then if you make it through that, then they usually send you to a 15-week fire academy.
And is it within the state of Connecticut?
Yeah, the Connecticut Fire Academy has a 15-week program for, it's called Recruit Firefighter. And during that time period, you'll receive your Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 training, which are national standard training. And that's the very basic training. Once you graduate that, then you're a probationary firefighter. So you're still going to be under the watchful eye for about a year in most departments.
It's more like a buddy up.
Yeah, and you're still doing the job, but you're still under the watchful eye because you're still green in the job. And then after that, then you're a firefighter. And then depending on the municipality, there's certain time limits and testing requirements and educational requirements that will require you to move up in the command structure. Then in most departments, being a lieutenant's the next stage.
Firefighter, lieutenant, captain, and then chief.
Assistant chief, deputy chief, chief, yes.
What is the difference in assistant and deputy?
So in most departments, your assistant chiefs are your shift commanders. They help manage the fire department on the operational end, where your deputy chief and your fire chief are more the administrative end.
Okay.
So
you know, that's another question that leads me to ask is, because you know your main goal for the work is to make people safe. You know, that's a most. But then there is also an administrative part to it, right?
correct.
So how do you segregate those? Is that the whole in charge of that falls under this assistant and deputy? Like when we talk about operational and administrative part.
So the administrative part of the fire chief is to ensure that your members and the department are taken care of, so that the community is taken care of. So the administrative part is ensuring that you have the proper equipment, the proper funding, the proper staffing to take care of what your mission of the fire department or of your particular fire department is.
Got it. And then talking about that, the one initially you mentioned about recruiting, right? So it's like a protocol, so you follow, apply, and all that. But then there is also another avenue, which is a volunteer service.
Correct.
So if somebody wants to volunteer, how does that journey starts, and how do you get recruited or get placed?
So within the volunteer fire department, like we have in our community, Shelton, or most of the Valley departments, Derby, Ansonia, Seymour, Oxford, they're all volunteer-based departments. They have volunteer fire departments. They do have volunteer EMS as well. And usually, most people that are interested can start at an early age, like I did, at 16 years of age, into their junior brigader programs. I believe the city of Ansonia and Oxford allow volunteers to start at 14 years of age.
Oh, okay.
Into their programs. So same thing, you have to have a passion for it. You apply to your local fire company within your community, and there's an application process. There's not a written test to volunteer, but there's still physical agility tests that you have to do and physicals that you have to take to
do they
to
also
get
have
into
to
it.
go for that 15 weeks
So
training
we do provide the training, but instead of doing it 15 weeks continuously and living at the fire academy. It's done over a period of time. So
Okay.
you'll still get the same training and education that someone that is joining the career fire service is doing in 15 weeks. It's just going to take you longer because you're going to be doing it on nights and weekends when you have the time availability to do it.
And they are not paid.
Majority of them are not. They may
Majority.
receive a stipend, they may receive some tax abatements, but
Okay.
it's like
And
99%
99. Okay. So
free.
how in the so obviously you should have a passion for you to volunteer, right?
Mhm.
That's where you come. Do you see those age groups are mostly after the retirement, or you see those age groups who are volunteering are actually at a very early age who have a passion for it, then turn into a job?
So it's changed over my 38 years in the department.
Okay.
Uh, we do recruit a lot. We have a Shelton High School program, Fire and EMS Pathways program, in which in our community, Shelton, we teach firefighter one training or orientation into the fire service, um, 5 days a week during the school year, because this allows these young, interested students that are interested in possibly volunteering or making a career out of the fire and EMS to experience it in high school and get the training they need to help us out or further themselves in their careers, right in school. So we started that about 3 years ago, and we've been pretty successful. The first year we had 10 students. Last year we had 20. This year we have 18 students in
Wow.
the class. So that's one way that people start out at an early
Early
age,
age, yeah.
and then I was fortunate. I started out at an early age, and by the time I was 21 years of age, I had also turned my volunteer passion into a career
Career.
that I was fortunate to r- rise up through the ranks and retire after 30 years. Other people will volunteer with us for 4 or 5 years, find a passion in whatever else. Maybe they're an engineer and they'll go on to engineering schools and work. Maybe it's Sikorsky aircraft, and maybe they're fortunate enough they stay in the area and they'll still volunteer with us. So we have some members within our Shelton Fire Department that have been members 55, 65 years. Um, and throughout their service, they served as junior members, younger members, then regular firefighters, rose up through the ranks, or they became support firefighters or station help firefighters. We have three in the volunteer ranks. We're able to have different categories of firefighters, so not everyone has to be the people, um, running into the burning house and wearing the air packs and pulling people out. If if people want to support us, they could do support type functions, and or station help functions. So in the volunteer fire service, we're able to reach out and grab a huge section of the population to help us out, whichever way people feel comfortable helping us out.
Got it. And then when we, you know, I always was I always had this curious thought, like, when talking about the suppression pillar, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you get a 911 call, and I'm going to give you an example, and let me know how would the fire department handle this. So let's say there could be two or three incidents that could take place. Either there is a fire in the house, or there is an accident on the highway, right? Those are the two major ways. Or if there is a natural calamity in the community, right? Those are two or three ways. So when 911 call happens, um, because 911 is the central,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So they transfer it to the local. So you get the call. Is that how it works? Like how does this whole things work from the time the call is made and the time that the fire department makes the decision to come to the incident event?
All right. So there's regional dispatch centers and then local uh, PSAP centers, they're called,
Okay.
public safety dispatch centers. So in our community, Shelton, if you were to call 911, that 911 would be answered by a public safety dispatcher that works full time at the Shelton Police Department. So that dispatcher will take the 911 and ask the nature of the emergency. Is it a car accident, a fire, a fire alarm,
Hmm.
um, a police matter type thing? And then he or she would dispatch the appropriate units based on the protocol set forth. So, so the call is taken, um, and then the dispatcher will assign whatever resources are needed for it. So you mentioned like a car accident. So if we had a car accident on Route 8, the dispatch that would probably come through a regional dispatch center. It'd probably be coming through a cell phone call to 911 to the Connecticut State Police. Connecticut State Police would contact the Shelton Dispatch Center and say there's an accident on Route 8 within the boundaries of Shelton. So Connecticut State Police would be sending their police officers there, and our dispatch center would be, if there were injuries, sending the um, the ambulance corps and the fire department for the nature of the
So all these things
injury.
happen in a very
That
fraction of time.
that's happening within minutes. Yes,
Wow.
and if it's serious, they're receiving numerous 911s. Maybe you're driving by and you're calling 911. Maybe the people involved are calling 911. So the public safety dispatchers could be inundated with numerous 911s, especially on a serious call, and they have to then decide what resources are needed and dispatch them out appropriately.
So all these things can happen, as you said, in a fraction of a time. And then you also have to make that decision. You are, by the time you get the call, you're all up and ready to go.
Yeah, so they do something. They'll put out a tone. They'll
What is
dispatch.
tone? I'm sorry.
So a tone is an activation, an alert activation that activates a speaker within the firehouse that would say companies 1 and 4, you have a MVA on Route 8 northbound by exit 11, for example, and reported 2-car motor vehicle accident with injuries, no entrapment, or they'll give you as much details as they have, and they're going to dispatch the closest resources to it. So they have protocol books and procedures within their computer-aided dispatch system that's going to pull up the address and say which fire companies, which apparatus are supposed to go, what other resources need to go there. Particularly for a car accident with injuries, you need the ambulance corps to respond as
So how
well.
often, in your experience on a day-to-day life, do you get more calls on the accident side or on the fire, like a false alarm or whatnot?
Within our community, false alarms are the majority. It's about 55% of our responses are
On the
some
false
type
alarm.
of false alarms. Yeah,
Wow.
activations of false alarms. Car accidents have increased quite a bit through the years as your community grows and your population grows. There's more traffic and more likelihood for car accidents. So car accidents are second
Second.
second um, highest percentage of calls in our community. It differs from different communities, of course, but
But there was a time, I think, was it last year or a year before, there was this house who got into an big fire, remember? And was it?
we do quite a few. So in particular, like the Shelton Fire Department last year, we did just shy of 1,700 fire department responses, and I know that
1700.
yeah, and I know the ambulance corps was somewhere around 7,800 calls for
Wow.
assistance. So in town, in our community of 42,000 people, there were about 9,000 emergency calls for services. I don't know what the police department's numbers are, but they're usually, you know, 2, 3 times more than the EMS and fire services. So
So
the dispatchers are pretty busy answering
wow,
911 calls throughout
I
the
can
year.
only imagine,
Yeah.
right? So that's where. So when you get a call, and I'm just, and excuse me with my ignorance, I'm trying to understand this. So you are a chief. At what point in time you are made aware there is a severity of it? Like, is there a protocol or a step in the process that makes it your way that, okay, you need to be informed that this has happened?
So when the dispatchers are put out, um, we have systems in place that it alerts us through our telephones too. There's
Everybody.
yes,
Even if there is a small car accident, something happens. So you,
correct.
regardless of
Depending,
any incident, you will definitely catch.
yes, um, that differs from community to community.
Okay, but in
So,
Shelton we
and
do.
in Shelton, myself, my deputy, my assistant chiefs, no matter what type of call happens in our community, out of those 1,700 calls, we are alerted to it. Depending on the nature of the call, will determine if how
You need
many
to,
of us respond.
I see.
Um,
So as we are speaking right now,
yes,
there is a possibility you might have gotten an alert.
I don't have my phone with me right
No,
now, but
but
there's a possibility there's
possibility.
calls
Okay.
happening in town that I'm not available for. But um, I have assistant chiefs, I have deputy chiefs, I have captains, so I have a chain of command. So in the absence of myself, all these other members are well trained and can act as an incident commander and handle those calls. So you don't always need the fire chief there.
All right. Okay. Got it.
So
When would you need, like, in your past, let's say 2 years or 3 years, where was that incidents where you experienced that you had to take that call or you had to be at that incident event, or does it happen?
so I respond to quite a few calls just because of my availability.
Okay.
Um, but I don't always have to take command of the situation because
Okay.
it could be handled at, like I said,
At the
at a company level
at the
with a fire lieutenant
okay.
or assistant chief. More complex incidents. A few years back, we had the large fire, the Star Pin fire,
Yes,
which
that's what I
was
was referring it to.
so that's an incident. That's a major event, and you want to expand your command, your incident command system, because it's a large scale event affecting not only that building, but it could affect other
Other
buildings and
buildings, yeah.
a lot of life hazards. So in that type of event, you'll have a centralized incident command, and it's usually going to be your highest level, a deputy chief or a chief running that incident will be the incident commander, and then other sectors will be your assistant chiefs. Will have like the north sector or the east sector, and and that's how it kind of works out.
So in talking to that
Mm-hmm.
event, right? Because it was a bigger event that took place. You know how, and this is something I have seen through the movies and web series, where in the White House, when there is a big event, there is a situation room, and president
Mm-hmm.
calls all the head of the administrative staff. In this kind of an event, does mayor gets involved? Like, okay, I heard this is a thing. What's the status? Do you have to provide those kind of statuses to the mayor?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a major event happening within our community. It's affecting possibly the water system because we're using a lot of water within the to put out the fire. The smoke is going all different areas. Um, it's it's going to affect people's livelihoods potentially. That was an abandoned building, but we've had fires where it's a major manufacturer in town, or it's in the heart of our downtown. So it's a lot of small businesses that are going to be affected. So absolutely, it's just not the fire department that's involved. It's police,
Police, everybody.
EMS.
So then mayor brings everybody together.
So yeah, the mayor's notified. At times we have to use we have to use resources from the public works to handle whatever roadblocks and different things.
Hmm.
So, um, excuse me, large scale events like flooding, winter storms. That's where we have the emergency operations center, and that's where the mayor, all the department heads, the chief, the director of public works, police chief, EMS chief, we all get together before these major events. If like Hurricane Sandy was coming back up like it did like 10 years ago, we'd be getting together as a group, public safety group, and developing a pre-plan. What are we going to do if this comes to our community? How and how are we prepared currently? How can we better prepare? So all those type of things. That's part of the administration
That is
job
what that's what I was gonna say,
of
right?
being fire chief. So
So
you're always preparing. You're always looking forward. You're always working with other community groups. You're working with business groups. You're working with the city's administrations so that you are prepared for whatever may happen.
so do you work
So
closely with when the natural disaster is on a radar, like a FEMA? Like, do you work
yes.
at the state or that the state feeds you
So
into
yeah,
that?
there's a state emergency operations center. It's called Web EOC. So
Similar to what
all
FEMA is at the national level.
and then the state works with the
FEMA.
national
Okay,
FEMA.
got it.
So you have the state resources or the federal resources, the state resources, and the
And the
local
city, local
resources.
resources. Yeah.
And through the incident management system, the national incident management system, everyone's trained on the same terminology, the same command structure. So from my level as a fire chief or the police chief's level, we're all talking the same language to our counterparts in, say, Derby, to our counterparts in Hartford. It's the
So it's the
same
same
language.
common language.
Yeah.
Okay. So does the chief of fire department reports into mayor?
In Shelton?
Yeah.
Yes. So I
When you say in
report to the
Shelton, but
mayor.
I'm assuming it's
Well,
every place.
most do. Most report to their mayor or first selectman.
Okay, first selectmen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do
And
you also
board of
have
fire commissioners as well. So there's commission levels, and then, but most department heads in most municipalities report to either their first selectman or mayor.
So how does the performance work? Like, do you also like in the corporate world where I work, there is always there is a performance. Like, how does the mayor performance like look at your performance? Is there a way that he would say that? Okay, I'm just trying to understand.
It's a good question. It's based on how the performance of the department's doing, and not just operationally, but how how it's working in general, and how you're working within the community and with other groups. That's what I would say.
I see. And then in as I'm this is an amazing, by the way. I'm so much, I have learned so much than I have, knew about a fire department. So thank you for that. Um, in your experiences, you said almost 30 plus years you've been in this, right? Which was that one day that you felt and you look back and said, oh my God, that was an event that it will always remain with you, like because it's also like when you are in that event you may have saved certain lives and that would have left a mark on you and you would say, wow, I'm glad that I dedicated my life to this space.
I, I've had events throughout my career. As I said, I was a firefighter and a paramedic as well. So um, I've had the opportunity to help people and to really make a difference over the years. So um, there's more than one, put it
More
that
than one.
way,
Okay.
and then there's a lot more than ones that will stay with me for the rest of my life too. That you could do the best job ever, and you just can't save everyone. So there's some real, as an emergency responder at any level, from a junior firefighter to a new EMT to chief of a department, you're going to come across incidents that are going to be very horrific, and you're going to do your best. You're going to do the best that you can, the training provides for, and sometimes the outcome's not going to be what was desired. So yeah, there's a lot of that
I'm
does
sure.
stay with you.
I'm sure.
So
um you know I I don't know if you ever heard about Simon Sinek. He's the author, and he did a lot of study with the Marine, U.S. Marine Corps.
mhm.
And one of the thing that in one of the book that he wrote after he did a study, he found it very fascinating with the Marine, and what he said was that it is so amazing to see that there are people who are willing to give their lives for safety of others. That's what, Marines do, like for the
Yeah.
national, right? So I'm assuming that on your side, you being a leader and you being the chief, when you're recruiting, how do you motivate the youngsters to attract to this work? Because right now in today's world, life is becoming more easy. People want to make easy money and people want to do what they, but there are still people who are volunteering, but there are still people who wants to contribute to this service. But then do you think the pay grade could become a challenge? So how do you motivate, if at all? I don't know if it's a valid question or I'm just trying to.
So it becomes a lifestyle. It's a passion. Um, Once people are exposed to it, I say give it a try. If you're community minded, you want to help others, it, it's it's a pathway that you can do it on a volunteer basis and or make it into a career. Like I said, I was fortunate. I started out as a volunteer. I continue to do it as a volunteer, but I also it became my career. It was my livelihood. So um, I was able to experience it on both avenues and continue to do so. I would say go to your local firehouse or ambulance corps. Think about volunteering. Um, Go meet people. It's a family. It's a second family. The firehouse. There's all sorts of events. It's not always doom and gloom. There's a lot of good times had at the firehouses. Um, Super Bowl watch parties, just picnics, parades, um, different fire department musters and stuff like that, where there's competitions, softball teams um, that happen at the fire stations. So it's community orientated with like-minded people that want to serve the community. It does have its distractors, meaning it's a serious business and it's hard work. So people have to put a lot of effort in to be well trained and then to potentially have to wake up at 2 in the morning when it's 2 degrees outside and go help their fellow citizen out because they ran their car off the road or is having a heart attack or something like that. So it's a big commitment, absolute big commitment. People have to be dedicated and they have to want it and they want to have the passion. But once they get involved and they start learning the craft and the duties of it, and then, like you said, you make that one difference. You may volunteer and make that difference because you're helping out at a school teaching fire prevention, teaching about how to get out of a home safely, right? If we impacted one person during fire prevention and they unfortunately have a house fire, but maybe that 5 or 6 year old remembered to tell mom and dad to check the smoke detector and the smoke detector went off and that family got out of the house, we saved the family. And that's huge. That's so impactful. So I tell everyone, give it a try. If it's not for you, there's plenty of other volunteer organizations out there looking for people. We talked a little about them before. You have the exchange clubs or the Rotary clubs, all impactful organizations. But if you do want to volunteer for the fire service, it's a huge commitment and, um, some both mentally and physically demanding.
Yeah. Chief, I would love to continue this conversation, but this is so informative, and I'm assuming that the viewers would love to tune into this podcast to understand more if they want to volunteer or if they want to create the career. If there is one message to our viewers, what would that be? If they want to apply, where do they do at Shelton or any place? How do they start with that?
So whichever community you live or work for, just look online, check out the local emergency services, your fire or EMS departments, and look through how to join, how to become a member. If you're looking into a volunteer opportunity and or a career opportunity, just start online, look in your whatever municipality website, and then just follow the links to those services. Probably the easiest way.
Easiest way, right?
Yeah, or stop in a local firehouse.
That's the
Stop
best
in,
way. Just
stop
simple.
in, make a personal connection. shake someone's hand, and that's probably the best way,
That's the
the
best way.
personal contact.
That's personal.
But as we all know, it's easier to make a couple clicks on your
Yeah.
iPhone. But stop in, say hello. Everyone's always willing to share a story like we're doing today.
We're doing to Chief. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I
very
truly,
much. I
truly
appreciate it.
You know, it's
So-
it's an honor to have you, and thank you for keeping the Shelton safe. Without
appreciate
you guys, you know, it's very hard. So thank you from bottom of my heart. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. We have
Thank
an
you.
amazing team. We have
Thank
about 250 volunteer firefighters
Wow.
in our community
Wow.
that do an amazing job each and every day.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we're very lucky to live in our community.
Yes.
Thank
pun
you, sir.
intended. Thank you, sir. Thank you.